Good morning. Welcome to the 2024 Asia Pacific Week. I hope that the cold winter weather is treating you well. Before we start, I would like to acknowledge and celebrate the first Australians on whose land we are meeting today, the Ngunnawal and Ngambri people, and pay my respect to their elders past and present. My name is Denghua Zhang. I'm a research fellow at the College of Asia and the Pacific at ANU. I'm also an academic co-convenor of this Asia Pacific Week. So this opening ceremony marks the start of an exciting week to come. So on behalf of my colleague and co-convenor, Dr. Nicholas Hall, and also the organizing committee, we warmly welcome you to ANU and also the Asia Pacific Week. We hope that you will find this week exciting and also rewarding. And this morning, we are privileged to have 4 specially invited guests and speakers to welcome you. And I will introduce them one by one before they deliver their speech. And our first guest and speaker is Professor Helen Sullivan, the Dean of our College of Asia and the Pacific at ANU. So Helen is a highly respected public policy researcher, teacher, advisor, and a senior university leader. Her award-winning scholarship explores the changing nature of state-society relationship. So Helen is the author of 6 books and more than 100 peer-reviewed journal articles and policy reports. So thank you so much, Helen, for being with us today out of your tight busy schedule. And we would also like to take this opportunity to thank you and also the college for the tremendous support we have received from you. So thank you so much, Helen. Over to you now. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone, and a very, very warm welcome to a very, very cold Canberra. I warn you, tomorrow is going to be colder, so those of you who don't have anything warm to wear, steal something from your neighbour. There's a very nice jacket down here at the front I can see. I would also like to begin by acknowledging and celebrating the traditional owners on the lands on which we meet, the lands of the Ngunnawal and Ngambri people, and pay my respects to elders past and present. And I'd like to acknowledge their continuing connection to land and their continuing care for land, and also extend my respect to any First Nations Australians or First Nations people from other countries present with us today. As has been said, I'm Helen Sullivan. I have the great privilege of being Dean of the College of Asia and the Pacific here at the Australian National University, and it is my very happy task to welcome you all here for the 14th Asia Pacific Week Conference. It's more than just an event, although there's a lot going on, but it's a platform really for bringing people together for really meaningful dialogue and education on the critical issues facing Asia and the Pacific. And it is wonderful to see so many of you here. We had a couple of years during COVID where we had to do this event online, and while it was still successful, there is nothing like human-to-human, face-to-face interaction. Now, I'm not going to be allowed to talk very long, but I want to get a sense of where it is you're all from. I know I've already missed out on some fantastic Filipino food last night, but I understand we have somebody here from Uzbekistan. Is that correct? No? They might be on a bus. Oh my goodness. Some poor soul from Uzbekistan on a Murray's bus. Okay, well, let's hope that they get here. All right. So not a great start. I'm just trying to work out where the furthest is that somebody's come from. There's somebody here from Italy. Hey. Oh, 2 people from Italy. Hey, that's fun. Did you know each other?
No.
Oh, well, do you know each other now? You're welcome. Okay, has anybody come from further afield than Italy? Nobody even want to give that a go? Come on, there must be somebody who's come from further afield than Italy. All right, if we can't go from the furthest away, is there anybody here from Canberra? Yay! Oh, you Canberrans, you're all sitting together. Come on, you need to mix up. I'm going to come back at the end of this week and I expect you all to be mixed up. So the Canberrans will know that it gets cold, so the Canberrans are the people that you need to steal your coats from. All right, I needn't detain you too much longer because I know that you have a huge amount to get through, but it is such a thrill to have you all here. This event traditionally brings together some of the most impressive, dynamic and dedicated students and young professionals in the region, but also this year from Italy and Uzbekistan, for an immersive and dynamic learning experience. And I am really, really appreciative for those of you who have travelled great distances, both throughout Asia and the Pacific and indeed beyond. Without people like you being prepared to travel and to come and participate, this event would not be the event that we know it to be and we want it to be. An event that embodies the spirit of youthful leadership and innovation, bringing together people who are passionate about all sorts of issues and bringing you into conversation with each other and, of course, with a range of experts. This year, the theme, which you'll know because you all have a booklet, Confluence and Creation in Asia and the Pacific, aims to highlight harmonious cultural exchange and encourage creative solutions to contemporary regional challenges. I have no doubt that many of you as emerging leaders will be at the forefront of addressing these regional challenges, both now and into the future. If there's a specific issue in the region that resonates with you, I encourage you to share that with the other delegates. I am sure you will find people who have similar concerns. So throughout the week, you're going to engage in 5 academic panels covering a diverse range of topics such as climate change, gender and sexuality, geopolitics, diplomacy, and youth representation. These panels are designed to provoke thought, encourage debate, and provide expert input from various fields. But the key thing there is both that you listen, but also that you contribute. This week is about you and your contributions. I really, really want to hear your voices. In addition to the academic panels, of course, there will be cultural events such as the gamelan performances, language tasters, the multicultural fair, and a self-guided tour in Canberra with the aid of a comprehensive guidebook. Don't try and go on a self-guided tour without the guidebook. Or you might find yourself on a Murray's bus back to Uzbekistan. I encourage each of you to participate actively, ask thought-provoking questions. If you're sitting there thinking this is something that's really preoccupying me, but I'm a bit anxious, don't know everybody, just speak up, because there is no doubt that there will be other people who will either be thinking the same thing or something very similar. And the more you get engaged and involved, the more others will too. Embrace the diversity of backgrounds. There's a real range of people and backgrounds here. Get to know each other, understand where each other is coming from. You'll have some hard conversations, I've no doubt, but that's part of this week. Push yourself out of your comfort zone and confront some things that maybe you find difficult. It's a unique opportunity to build connections, expand your knowledge, and contribute, importantly, to the future of this amazing region. So on behalf of the ANU College of Asia and the Pacific and the organising committee, who have done an outstanding job, and I think have put together an extraordinary programme and done so under quite challenging circumstances, I wish you an exciting and memorable conference. I hope the week leaves you with a greater appreciation and understanding of the unique opportunities and challenges facing our region and a refreshed sense of purpose to develop your own role in shaping the future. So thank you and enjoy.
Thank you so much, Helen. And our next speaker is Hebe Ren. As you may know, Hebe is the director of this year's Asia Pacific Week organizing committee. And she's a diligent and gifted youth leader. So Hebe is a final year international relations student here at ANU. And she has a strong background of the International Student Advocacy. For example, she's the former president of the ANU, International Students Society. And also Hebe was the finalist for the Australian-China Relations Community Service Award. So thank you so much, Hebe. Over to you now.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we're meeting today, the Ngunnawal people. I pay my respect to their elders, past and present, and extend my respect to any First Nation Australians and Indigenous people present with us today. On behalf of the Asia Pacific Week Organizing Committee, it is my great pleasure to welcome you all to Asia Pacific Week 2024. Now in its 14th year, Asia Pacific Week continues its mission of promoting Asian and Pacific literacy while fostering dialogues and relationship among the future leaders of these important regions. This event brings together some of the most passionate, impressive, and dedicated students and young professionals for an immersive and dynamic learning experiences. This year, we received over 250 applicants from more than 30 countries. Over the past few months, we have connected our delegates from over 25 universities around the world through emails and social media. Today, we're very honored to welcome you all to the beautiful campus at the Australian National University. It is a significant moment for us to finally gather here in person and engage face to face. In curating this year's theme, Confluence and Creation in Asia and Pacific, our committee hopes to highlight the idea of harmonious cultural exchange in Asia and the Pacific region and encourage each of you to appreciate the shared cultural knowledge and heritage of our region, challenge the status quo, and explore innovative solutions to regional challenges. As our theme suggests, the organizing committee has infused creativity into this year's conference. Guided by cutting-edge panelists, this week offers a wide array of academic panels, cultural workshops, and social events. From the Gender and Sexuality panel to the Multicultural Fair, to the ASEAN Australia Special Summit, to the Pacific Short Film Festival, our committee is excited to explore how the blending of ideas, traditions, and innovations can lead to boundless potential. Throughout this week, we encourage you to be curious, engage in conversations, and approach each event with an open mind. We hope that by the conclusion of this week, you will depart with not only a deeper understanding of the opportunities and challenges facing the region, but also with the resources and network that will empower you to drive change in these dynamic regions. Finally, I'd like to express my sincerest gratitude to the Asia Pacific Week 2024 Organizing Committee and to the academic co-conveners Dr. Nicholas Ho and Dr. Denghua Zhang. Asia Pacific Week is a product of their many months of hard work, creativity, and resilience. Working with this group of talented, dedicated, and inspiring students has been the utmost privilege. So on behalf of the Asia Pacific Week 2024 Organizing Committee, I wish you a memorable time in Canberra, and we look forward to meeting you all throughout the week. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Tahlia Aualiitia. So Tahlia is an award-winning Australian journalist. She has more than 11 years working in the media industry here in Australia, mainly working with the ABC, Australian Broadcasting Corporation. And Tahlia, in the year 2020, Tahlia was awarded the Results Australia's the Media Leader Award. And Tahlia strongly believes in the power of storytelling to create lasting and positive change. So thank you so much, Tahlia, for being with us today. And really, we look forward to your speech. Thank you.
Talafalava, ciao and hello. I too would also like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land we are meeting on, the Ngunnawal and the Ngambri people, and I also pay my respects to their elders past and present. My name is Tahlia Aualiitia and I am truly honoured to speak to you today. By way of introduction, to talk about the lands that I am from, I am Samoan on my dad's side. I come from the villages of Leova'a, Puapua, Satupaitea and Tahlia Aualiitia. And on my mum's side, I'm from the Abruzzo region of Italy. So Italians represent this Asia Pacific conference as well. Now, these photos, I spent a lot of, also too, this is aside, the last time I did a PowerPoint was 20 years ago, and I'm sure some of you were not even born the last time I did it, so I took a lot of time to get that background going on, and I just completely missed that slide anyway. Thank you. Also, if some of the other slides mess up, that is why. I am not a PowerPoint proficient, that good at it. Okay, let's back to the speech. Now, these photos are my parents with their parents when they were celebrating their wedding back in 1983. Growing up here in Australia, a lot of people thought that my background was an unusual mix because in their minds, the Pacific country of Samoa and the European country of Italy couldn't have been further apart. One is known as being laid back and relaxed, and apologies to the Italians, the other side as being really fiery and passionate. So everyone thought, how on earth would that work out? But for me, it was never weird because when my family got together, they were always about three things: family, faith, and food. Now, this year, the theme of ANU's Asia Pacific Week is about confluence and creation. Confluence meaning coming or flowing together, creation meaning the action or process of bringing something into existence. I feel that my background is a testament to the power of this. By focusing on what brings us together rather than what divides us apart, helps to create a solid foundation that we can continue to build upon. And that has been my experience in life, just as it has in work. Now, like a lot of migrant families, my family has always believed in the power of education and learning. Fueled by my great aunt Tussi, a strong advocate for education, my dad left Samoa as a young teen on a full scholarship to Wanganui Collegiate in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and then he went on to study at the University of Newcastle in New South Wales. And that's where he met my mum, who was studying her master's in education. So the pressure for us to follow education was pretty high. Now, my dad went on to obtain his PhD in chemistry, which, according to my Aunt Tussi and Aunt Fata, made him the first Samoan ever to get a doctorate in chemistry. Now, I know that I am a journalist, but I haven't fact-checked this, but I trust the aunties because they always know what is going on. This photo is when my dad graduated with his PhD, which is pretty impressive considering at the time my parents were raising 4 kids under the age of 3. Obviously, twins help that math work out. My parents passed their love of learning on to myself and my 3 brothers. I would have picked my graduation photo, but somehow I couldn't find it, and yet somehow could find the one when my brother graduated from medicine. So again, my family, education, very important. But I will let you know that journalism is a great way to always keep learning, and it's something that I just really enjoy. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, mainly because I am an oversharer, but this is the first time I have ever given a speech like this. So my imposter syndrome right now is actually at an all-time high. In fact, when I was given the invitation to speak to you all, I thought that there must have been a mistake. Because after more than a decade working at the ABC, I actually left my job in December, which was a very privileged decision that I wouldn't have been able to make without the support of my family and partner. So when I got the invitation to speak to you all, I was worried that I wouldn't be enough. I was worried that I wasn't inspirational or high profile enough. I was worried that I would let you down, and I would let my family down, and I would let my community down. I'm telling you all this because it's normal to feel those feelings of self-doubt. In fact, I've come to learn that women and people of colour are particularly likely to experience them. So that is my first piece of advice to you. Be afraid and do it anyway. Always have the courage to be your authentic self, the courage to learn something new, to talk to someone you don't know, to try something different, and to advocate for what you believe in. I know what it's like to walk into a room, look around and feel like, oh, maybe I'm not supposed to be here. But I want to remind you that that room needs you. What you bring, your skills, your experience, your perspectives, your passions, they are all important and valuable when it comes to finding positive solutions and creating change. And then, once you're in that room, make sure that you leave the door open for others. That's a really important part of that. I always thought that I fell into journalism during my university days. I had high school dreams of being a lawyer, and I needed to pick another subject to fill out my degree, and all my friends were doing journalism, so guess which subject I picked. But maybe it was destiny and it was always meant to be, because it turns out that journalism actually is in my blood. On my Smanu side, I am actually the 5th generation of journalists. In fact, my uncle, Reverend Malingi Avele, was the first newsreader on Aotearoa's Tangata Pacifica program. And what I love about journalism is that I'm able to help tell and share stories. And I get to ask questions of people who are directly involved with things, and it truly does feed my endless curiosity. Now, I know that not everyone in this room wants to become a journalist, which is a pity, but that is completely fine. So today, I want to talk about 2 things that I've come to learn are integral in both good journalism and good communication, because good communications is what we all need. The first is connection, and the second is recognising the value in diversity and inclusivity. Now, when I first started as a journalist, I pressed slide too early. You're going to get what that means soon. When I first started as a journalist, I received the best piece of advice from Tasmanian rural reporter Sally Dacus, who told me, if you ever go to someone's house for an interview and they offer you a cup of coffee, always say yes. I quickly learnt that that coffee is about creating a connection. It's the same principle of why Talanoa is so important in the Pacific, because it brings people together and creates a safe space where people can share and they can understand. Good communication, aka talking, listening, connecting as humans, and creating respectful relationships are the building blocks for getting things done. It's why I believe that 1, most of the world's problems could be solved with better communication, and 2, artificial intelligence will never be able to replace journalism because it will never have that special magic that connects us as humans. Without connection, there isn't credibility or trust, and it's hard to get things done and create change when you don't have those things. In journalism, there is the trust that you have of the person you're talking to, the trust that they have in you to tell their story and not misrepresent them, and then the trust the audience has that your reporting is accurate, honest, and fair. Trust can never be assumed. It is something that is continually built, developed, and maintained. Because as we often see, once trust is broken, it can be a long and difficult road to come back from. Now, as a journalist, That could have come a bit earlier, that slide, that's fine. As a journalist, covering the Pacific while being based in Naarm, Melbourne, meant forming connections, building trust and making contacts was crucial in me being able to do my job because I wasn't there on the ground. So I really had to build those connections and build trust. Now this tweet, oh, there we go. This tweet is from back in 2021, and it told the world that Micronesia had voted to leave the Pacific Islands Forum. See that little document there. Now, a quick crash course for those who might not be familiar with what happened. It all started when the leaders of the 5 Micronesian countries, Palau, Kiribati, Federated States of Micronesia, Marshall Islands and Nauru, said that there was a misunderstanding. They called it a gentleman's agreement that they had, that their Micronesian candidate was going to be the next Secretary General of the Pacific Islands Forum. So when the vote took place and their candidate wasn't elected, they said that trust had been broken and then decided to withdraw from the region's peak body. So this attached document, as you can see, has the 5 leaders' signatures at the time, formally confirming their decision to withdraw, and it was sent to me straight from the printer, following months of will they, won't they discussions. In fact, I got various iterations of that document every time they thought that it was the finalised one until that one happened. So why did I, in Melbourne, have it first? It was because someone I had never met face to face trusted me and the way that I covered stories from the region. That is how powerful those connections work. Now, I just also want to follow up that rift has since been repaired and the Micronesian countries have returned to PIF following lots of negotiations. And how was that trust restored? Of course, it was through Talanoa and open communications. As a journalist, your contact book is so important because having information from inside that room helps you understand and report the story as accurately as possible. Another example of when those connections and those contacts helped was me when I was working back in 2022, covering the sweeping security deal that China had offered 10 Pacific countries. Now, at the time, I was working as a TV news producer, and we had lined up an interview with Kirsty Needham from Reuters, who was the first to report on the story. So we had a copy of her report, but we didn't have the deal itself. And of course, all the detail is in the deal. So I reached out to a contact, and less than 5 minutes later, it was in my inbox. The documents that were sent to me included a draft communique and a 5-year action plan covering a range of issues, including security, trade, data, and telecommunications, which I'm sure you can all understand a lot of people were interested to see what was being offered. Having those details of that document meant we could ask questions directly relating to it, providing important context for the audience and on what was being offered and how, and why Pacific countries at the time had hesitations and ultimately voted to reject it. Now, I didn't know this at the time because I was working on a late shift, but people had been trying to get that document all day. And once we had it, it not only helped the coverage we were able to do on the show that I was working on, but coverage across the ABC network. Now, in my role, I covered news in the Pacific, but also stories relating to Pacific communities here in Australia. And another example of when connections and building trust was really important was back in 2020 when there was a fatal stabbing in Melbourne's West involving a 15-year-old boy of Tongan heritage who was set upon by a group of attackers. Now, immediately when I heard the news, I felt sorry for the young man and his family. But I also got that dreaded feeling that I've talked about with other journalists, Indigenous journalists and journalists of colour, because we knew that stories like this don't just operate in a vacuum. There's often a lot of political and public discourse that goes along when a story like this happens. And at best, Pasifika communities in Australia have been underrepresented in the media, and at worst, they've been misrepresented, which, as you can imagine, creates a real distrust in the media. So I went on Facebook and found Dr. Rita Simanutafa, a respected member of the community in Melbourne's West. I introduced myself and asked for an interview, and we had a lengthy chat before I even hit record. And it became very clear to me that Dr. Simanutafa didn't want her community to be villainised, and instead wanted to focus on solutions towards culturally sensitive youth empowerment. How do we prevent this from happening again? By having that chat and building trust, it helped to not only give a voice to the community at that time, but it also helped frame the solutions-focused story that we were able to tell. It also helped create a trusting relationship so that we were able to tell more stories, and importantly, good news stories, from that community that otherwise may not have received a platform. Now, I only started covering the Pacific for the ABC in 2019, and let me tell you, as some of you may definitely already be aware, the interest in the region has definitely shifted in these recent years. 2019 was also, of course, when Kiribati and Solomon Islands switched diplomatic ties from Taiwan to China. And even though China has had a presence in the region for decades, the move expanded their influence and definitely caught the attention of the US and its allies, including Australia, and it has obviously renewed their focus and attention on the region. I've joked with fellow journalists that China's interest has been good for business, because now there is an appetite and a budget to cover stories that were once considered too hard to cover. Last year, I was fortunate enough to travel to Vanuatu to cover stories like the social impacts on families and communities who had members participating in Pacific labour schemes in Australia, and the very important work that was being done in Vanuatu to keep families together. Being there on the ground was such a privilege, and I got to learn so much. The Pacific is such a richly diverse region with so many cultures and languages. Having local contacts who were able to share knowledge and at times assist with language was so important in being able to build trust and tell stories. Even when it was as simple as letting me know that, hey, when we go to this certain village, the most respectful thing for you to wear is a skirt and not pants. Those small little things can make such a difference. Although, I will note that if someone in Vanuatu ever tells you that the goat farm is 5 minutes away, that is a lie. What it actually is a 30-minute trek up a mountain with no trail. And let me tell you, there are ways to build connections and bond, and trying to get me up and down a mountain without falling over was definitely one way to do it. So just a note, always don't try and go up a mountain in Berks. It will never work out. And obviously, while I support the telling of more stories from the region, I think it's also important to interrogate the at times colonial lens from which they are told. One of my small acts of resistance when working in the newsroom was to always remove the tiny and small from news copy and scripts I edited. I don't know why, but it seems that Pacific Island countries are the only countries whose size seems to matter in news reporting. We don't hear the large country of Russia or the medium-sized country of Honduras. Yet I would often see lines like, the tiny Pacific country of Vanuatu has been hit by a cyclone, when it could just be Vanuatu has been hit by a cyclone. When it's not trying to represent a David versus Goliath situation, words like tiny and small can appear to minimise the importance and impact of what is happening. Language matters and words are important. It's why you will see people in the Pacific working to change the lens and therefore change the narrative. We are not drowning, we are fighting. We are not victims, we are resilient. And that's why small acts of resistance, no matter how small they are so important, and it's something that we really have to pay attention to. Now, I did the slide at the right time. Now, when I first started as a journalist, there were a lot of people who thought I got my job because I was the token diversity hire and because I ticked a box. But as an optimist by nature and a journalist by trade whose job it is to ask questions and hold people to account, I was convinced that I could be like a Trojan horse who, once inside, could bring about change. So in 2020, I did a lot of things, but in particular, I'll give you this example. In 2020, during the Black Lives Matter movement, there seemed to be a real push to address racism and call for systemic change within industries. I knew that it wasn't going to be fixed overnight. I'm not that delusional. But I thought that maybe by using my own personal experience of what I had seen and witnessed in newsrooms, is that I could help address an issue that I had seen over and over again in the media, and that was the correct pronunciation of people's names. See that, and as you can see, my name is spelt wrong by my own employer, and it wasn't the first time that happened. Even saying it twice was not completely true, but that was 2 times that my name had been spelt wrong. And I know the history and trauma when it comes to people's names and how disrespected you can feel when your name is laughed at, pronounced or spelt wrong, or when people don't even bother to try. I think sometimes that's the worst part, when people go, I'll just not say anything, or I'll call you Smith. That seems to happen and I don't understand it. So I wrote this article of why pronouncing names matter. And let me tell you, some people really did not like it. I received abusive messages, including death threats. I told people that you should take some time to pronounce someone's name right, and people were sending me death threats over social media and directly into my work email. Like, I came to work and read these messages. And I even had some people on social media trying to get immigration services to look into me. I was born in Australia. They would not have had any work, but obviously I looked a certain way and had a certain name, and that's how people react. Luckily though, the internet has a short attention span, and the waves of global hate died down after a week, because that's the joy of something like this. It does happen in waves. And let me tell you, while I was in the thick of it, I really questioned if it was worth writing, and given the personal toll, if it was worth the effort. And let me tell you that it was. For three definite good things came out of it. The first was that feedback wasn't all negative. We do just have a tendency to focus on the negatives. There were a lot of people who also shared their experiences of dealing with their names, how the media had dealt with their names, and thanked me for saying something. Secondly, I also saw that colleagues started to make more of a conscious effort to get names right. And that meant a lot to see that. And then finally, and perhaps, no, it's not most important, but finally, my first-hand experience of being attacked online helped me recognise that more needed to be done to protect journalists and also talent of colour when it comes to online abuse. Because what then happened is, during the COVID-19 pandemic, I saw my Asian colleagues receiving the same amount of abuse for their reporting, even though their identity shouldn't have had anything to do with the story. At that time, I was a team leader, so I asked management what measures were in place to protect their safety. And I also questioned what measures were also in place to protect our talent and our case studies who also come from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds, who also disproportionately received more hateful online comments. Because it's not enough just to disable the comment section, work should actually be done. Turns out, no one had asked that question before. And because of it, procedures are now in place and more support is available. For some, it's as easy as meaning you don't have to put your email address under your profile. And that's as simple as is that they can't find you, that they can't directly threaten you to your work email. And what that then does is it helps people to do just their job. They don't have to worry about everything else. They can just go to work. And it also proves that sometimes the catalyst for change can come from unexpected places. There's the old adage that you can't be what you can't see. And when I started covering the Pacific, particularly on TV, I would receive messages from people who would tell me that they didn't even know that there were journalists of Pacific heritage working at the ABC. Now, I'm definitely not the first, but when the media industry doesn't look like the people it represents, then it's easy to get that impression. Now, I'm not going to lie, being the Trojan horse involves a lot of labour, which can take a mental, emotional and personal toll. There were times that I was told I was too close to it by some and then not Pacific enough by others. But when I look back, the stories that I'm proudest of covering are the stories that I did have to advocate for, the stories that I had to prove were important and worth the airtime, and the everyday voices of people that I fought for being included. Our communities are not a monolith, and our experiences are not all the same. There is such tremendous value to be found when more people get to have a voice and get to have a seat at the table. I want to leave by giving you the 3 C's. My friend Sam is a marketing genius, and they came up with these C's as a value set that drives both personal and professional development. I know that everyone in this room has the smarts. And as you go into the week and whatever you decide to do in life, I hope that these 3 C's help you also bring the heart to your smarts. The first is culture. Value the importance of respecting and sharing culture. Always welcome different perspectives as a chance to learn and grow. Connection. Build trust through authentic, meaningful connections. Work to be part of communities where knowledge is shared and solutions are collectively found. And finally, curiosity. Embrace challenges as new opportunities. Ask questions and don't be afraid to be bold. Ultimately, show up, be yourself, make room for others. Don't be a dickhead. I think that that's implied, but I feel like I also need to say it. And who knows, one day you might be asked to give a speech proving that at least at some point in your life you must have done something right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Tahlia, for this fantastic keynote speech. So we can say that you are more than qualified, inspirational keynote speaker. So thank you. And also thank you so much for sharing those 3 C's with us. What you have mentioned, the culture, connections, and the curiosity. I think that's also one of the reasons why we are hosting this Asia Pacific Week here at ANU. And last but not least, as you mentioned, we should always accept a cup of coffee, right? We hope that after this event, you can also accept our invitation of a cup of coffee after this event. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. So now, we're so privileged to have Serena Williams with us today, and Serena will do a welcome to country ceremony. And Serena is heavily involved in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island community and organizations here in the ACT and also surrounding regions. And she's passionate about education in the prevention of family violence. And without further ado, over to you now, Serena, and thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you.
Thank you for that great introduction. First of all, I'd like to give my apologies because I feel like I've done this back to front. But I had some business with the Prime Minister this morning and I had to be there, but I did give a call to say that I would be here because it's very important to welcome the country, as we know, coming from the Asia Pacific. Tahlia, I'm sorry I got to miss your keynote speech, but I understand that it was about the influence that you have and what you've been through as a Pacific woman, working with ABC. And I just wanted to touch briefly on that and thank you for giving that speech. I'd love to grab your number and have a conversation with you, definitely, and how we can influence, because I'll actually be doing some work with DFAT and going into the Pacific, going around to talk about domestic and family violence and self-determination and letting the people, because as people of our own countries and communities, we are the people with the skills. But I am here to do a welcome to country this morning, and I'm sorry that I didn't miss the keynote and early this morning. But to all of you, welcome here to beautiful Ngunnawal country. For those that don't know, as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are the oldest living culture in the world, but we have a very close connection to the Pacific. They are our brothers, our sisters, they're our neighbouring countries. And the Pacific was once all joined here to this continent. My husband is of PNG descent and he comes from the Arama, Central Province, and so I've had a lot of time to work in the Asia Pacific area, and I think it's really important to celebrate the Asia Pacific Week as we celebrate NAIDOC Week here, and it's about successes, it's about going forward, it's about celebrating who you are as an individual, as a community, as your culture, and being proud of your heritage. And so I'd like to acknowledge my elders past, present and future, and acknowledge any other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today, and all First Nations people from the Asia and Pacific. And I say in my revitalised language, I say, Yumalandi Yeramora Ngunnawal. Hello, come. I will sweep the lands for you to leave your footprints here in beautiful Ngunnawal country. Naja, the water of the Royal, the Murrumbidgee, the Malomwe, the Gudgeonby and Ginninderry, that will cleanse you of all harm. And Malian. Malian is the Wichita eagle, the totem of the Ngunnawal people, and she will guide, protect and oversee you here on your journey of beautiful Ngunnawal country. On behalf of myself, other Ngunnawal elders and Ngunnawal family groups, I welcome you here to the beautiful land of the Ngunnawal. Again, I do give my apologies because this is the first thing that's meant to happen, but it's important to maintain respectful relationships, and I'd rather that it did happen than not. Again, I hope you have a wonderful week celebrating what you believe in, your successes, where you want to go in the future, the pathways for your countries, for your communities, for your families, for your people, and celebrate something that we have, and that's culture, and that's always built within inside of us, and the first thing is respect. Much love and respect to you all, and I hope you feel very welcome to this beautiful country of mine, to enjoy the rest of the week and celebrate what's important to you. Thank you.